Good morning. So they say that the quality of water having wetness is reached at 1 million water molecules. So that's interesting, before 1 million water molecules, water is not wet. Similarly, I was just thinking about what if, I was like, whoa, what if, there's a threshold to everything, like fire, has flashpoint. Do you know about flashpoint on fire? When fire reaches flashpoint, it's when the room goes up in flames all of a sudden, and it's just suddenly a whole, different level. It's reached a whole new level. It's just suddenly all ablaze. And that's fire's flashpoint. And I was thinking about how life force, energy, or chi, or consciousness coming into your brain, I guess, because your brain is like a conduit for consciousness. It doesn't create it exactly. And I was just thinking about life force coming into the body, and I was thinking, what if life force has a threshold? Spiritless humans just haven't reached beyond the fifth dimensional threshold, is what we always say, and it's relative to the higher heart inscension ascension. So, what if there's a flashpoint for life? Well, water only gets the quality of wetness at 1 million water molecules, I'm pretty sure is what they say. 1 million. And fire and its flashpoint. And the way I started first thinking about this was that bacteria. Your body can deal with 1 or 2 bacteria running around. Your white blood cells will chase them down. And it's only an infection when it becomes macro, when it's 1 billion of the same bacteria, or 1 million of that same bacteria, which your body could deal with in 1 or 2. But, with 1 million or 1 billion, it's suddenly called an infection. So I was just thinking about that, and it led me to water, and then that fire flashpoint. And then I thought, well, what if chi energy, or there's just some way that life force in a human has a flashpoint, like fire. Wherein perhaps at flashpoint, then and only then, so the code would be if flashpoint, then life force. Just a simple if statement in coding. So if you have, flashpoint, then body has life force. When water reaches 1 million water molecules, it's considered wetness, or wet. Before that, it's not really wet. Isn't that interesting? So, I was thinking just a minute ago while I was talking, what if the soul has a flashpoint that imprints it suddenly onto your microtubular level, which is below the neurons. Below the neuronal level is the microtubular level. And Stuart Hameroff from Institute of Consciousness, I think it is, The director or co-director of Institute of Consciousness, Stuart Hameroff, who's also the guy who was the anesthesiologist with the goatee beard on the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? Down the Rabbit Hole, 2006 scientific documentary. And he was on there talking about the after-death experience, and since he's come out with a theory of the soul being, pardon me, Stuart has come out with a theory of the soul being imprinted, at the least. That's not how it's said. That's how I further the language. But his theory is the soul is in the microtubules. In the microtubules. And, you know, obviously when I read this, I first laughed out loud. I laughed, ha! You know, inside the microtubules, the soul is just hiding there like in a cave. Not exactly. I thought to myself, you know. I thought, ha, that's funny. I just found it funny because the soul is not going to be found hiding anywhere. It's like we don't find consciousness hiding anywhere in the brain. It's not like you open up the parietal lobe or the cerebrum or the cerebellum, the thalamus, the pineal. We don't open any of those and we go, aha! Consciousness, you little bastard. We got you. Pick him up by the tail, you know. We don't find consciousness in there. So we've realized, you know, consciousness is like conduiting through our brain more. That's a better way to talk about it. And, you know, we go through the process of talking about cerebrospinal fluid secreting up through the God's mouth, medulla oblongata, and the ventricles switching on, and you know, like brains, like drums on the top of the brain stem. And then you get emotional field generation from the central ventricle. And, you know, we can talk about pineal scintillations onto the septum pellucidum in the midbrain, like onto a projector screen, the septum pellucidum. And I've talked about that before, like it's the projector, where, the screen where the projector projects onto, and the pineal is like the little projector scintillating its scintillations of sparky light, visions, and code that is passed into English or Chinese or whatever, Spanish. So just like, you know, the brain is conduit. Ooh, it's pretty cold here. It's like 10 degrees or 9 degrees or something. So just like the brain is conduit, I think that, you know, Stuart Hameroff from Institute of Consciousness, saying that the soul is imprinted, just saying that the soul is in the microtubules, just made me laugh, because it's like thinking that consciousness is in the brain or emanates, you know, is created just by the brain. And as soon as you become, I don't know, any kind of energy worker, and I mean within yourself, your meridians, you're clearing your chakras, your meridians, blah, 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 you realize your organs contribute to your thoughts. And your organs are like musical instruments. Organs. You know the organ? It's a musical instrument. Well, your organs in your body are very, very much the exact same way. You know, you squeeze it and it produces a sound. And with your organ, it's the same way. And it's basically like you producing thought along the lines of that energy or mood current, you know. And this can be relative all the way up to the 7th dimensional ray chosen, the 4th dimensional tangential energy. So it goes upper dimensional, but I'm not going to talk about that now. So just like, you know, your brain conduits consciousness more than, you know, creates it, I don't think your soul is hidden in your microtubules. So that's why I laughed when I heard the theory. I thought, it's not in there. Obviously, the soul is not inside the microtubules. And so the microtubules are a level below the neurons. And the neurons are what, 10 to the power of 40? Or how do you write that again? 10 to the power of 4? Anyway, 40 trillion. Whatever the little symbology for 40 trillion is. Let's just go with 10 trillion, 40 trillion. This is your neurons. And then there's a whole nother level under that, about the same. Another 30 trillion microtubules. So it's just like a scale down in magnitude. If you want to know what I mean by scale down, look at that scale of the universe tool on Google. Pretty awesome. You can zoom to the largest postulated universal size and, down to Planck length, all the way through the particles and everything. Excuse me. So, I don't think the soul is hidden in the microtubules. I don't think it's hiding there, peekaboo. But I think we can find the imprint there. And that's how I've furthered the language by saying, yeah, sure, maybe the imprint can be found there. And isn't that interesting? Perhaps then flashpoint, fire has flashpoint, water has wetness point. I'm just naming it flashpoint because it's where it suddenly flashes into wetness. So I'm just going to call it flashpoint. So maybe the soul, or the soul's light, which is luminous, which to our physical light and physical eyes in this side of the threshold, it appears dark, right? The luminous light is only seen within as light. And what if this, our inner soul light, the luminous light, which may well be antimatter, it may well be. This luminous light, the numinous, not phenomenous, numinous light, this inner light, the inner soul light, the stuff you see in visions, psychedelic visions, when you take a psychedelic plant, or even, fungi, psychedelics from nature, and when you see all that light, that's the stuff I'm talking about. That's the inner numinous light. So what if this, the light of soul, the light, because when you have those visions, you're going into your chakras, it's inward, onward, and upward. You're going in and onward and up through your soul template. That's why people love to draw the mandalas. You're seeing your energy structure. And sometimes you're shown mandalas of other things, other energy structures, not your chakra system. Anyway, so as we progress through the rainbow bridge, we see this higher light. But what if on the way down into the body, that there is a flash point at microtubule point? And so then that's relative to that theory that Stuart has brought out about the soul being in the microtubules. Because that might be where the flash point happens and you get an imprinting, like a pure first imprinting, and then it sort of scatters too far by the neuronal level. You can't tell whether it's, truly you, the person, or, inside your soul, or if it's societal rigmarole, something from the outside brainwash. It's already too mixed at the neuronal level, you see. That could be the case, right? That seems very reasonable, the way I just said it too. That's where really the outside starts interfering too much, Too much epigenetics there. So yeah, it could be that the flashpoint of the soul is at the microtubules or in the microtubule level. Benjamin Cowenberg, consciousazine.net.